Hello, sixth grade. So as we gear up for the iLeap coming up for science and social studies, we're going to be doing a bit of science in the back to help us practice with decimals as well as get ready for the iLeap next week. So I know you guys are great at science, so this should all be very easy for you, and I know you guys are going to kill this test next week. All right, so today we're going to be practicing finding the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons, and adding and subtracting atomic masses. So we'll be adding and subtracting decimals. So this is going to be a mix of math and science. So for part A, the first question is, what is the atomic number of boron? At the top of the page, you have a little diagram of a few elements from the periodic table, all of their atomic number and atomic masses. So looking up here, because I've written out boron and oxygen up here, we have two numbers above boron. I have 5 and 10 and 81 hundredths. So I know that the atomic number is the amount of protons or the amount of electrons in an atom. So if the atomic number is the amount of protons and electrons, that means the atomic mass is the total mass of the atom, adding the mass of the protons as well as the mass of the neutrons. So I know that the atomic number should be less than the atomic mass because it's just the number of protons. So my atomic number is going to be 5. So the answer to part A, the first question is the atomic number is 5. Then it says, what is the atomic mass of the atom? So the atomic mass is the total mass of that atom. So it'll be the larger number, which is 10 and 81 hundredths. So the atomic mass is 10 and 81 hundredths. Then the question asks, how many protons does boron have? I know that the number of protons is the same as my atomic number, so the number of protons is 5. Then the next question is really easy because I know you guys all know that the number of protons is the same as the number of electrons. So the number of electrons will also be 5. All right, but here's where it gets tricky. So the last question is, how many neutrons does boron have? So in order to find the number of neutrons, I know the total mass of the atom, and I know the mass of the protons, because the mass of the protons is the same as the atomic number, 5. So in order to find the number of neutrons, I need to subtract the total mass from the mass of mass of the protons from the total mass, because the mass of each neutron is 1, the mass of each proton is 1, and then electrons don't really have any mass. So if we add up the mass of protons plus the mass of electrons, which is just 0, plus the mass of neutrons, we'll get 10 and 81 hundredths, which is our atomic number. I wrote that kind of small, but you can still kind of see it. So the mass of the protons plus the electrons plus the neutrons is 10 and 81 hundredths. The mass of the protons is 5. The mass of the electrons have no mass, so it's just 0. The mass, I'm not even going to keep electrons in here, so we'll just add the protons and the neutrons. Mass of the neutrons, we don't know. And the atomic number is 10.81. Okay, so now the first thing I need to do is round my atomic number, or my atomic mass, so the total mass. Round it up. So I can round 10.81. In order to round, I look one place to the right of the decimal, say, is that number bigger than or equal to 5 or less than 5? 8 is bigger than or equal to 5, so I will round up. And then 5 plus the number of neutrons, or the mass of the neutrons, will get us to 11. So I know that there are 6 neutrons. So the number of neutrons is 6. So I'll go over this really quickly for the next one as well. So the next one starts with the atomic number of oxygen. Remember, the atomic number is the smaller one, so I'll just walk through this really quickly. So for part A, the atomic number, I'm not even going to write it down. You guys can figure it out. The atomic number is the smaller number because it's just the proton, so the atomic number is 8. Atomic mass is the larger number because it's the total mass, so it's 15.999. The number of protons, so you can fill out the first one and the second one. Number of protons is going to be the same as the atomic mass, or the atomic number, so it's going to be 8. Number of electrons is also going to be 8. All right, and finally the number of neutrons, the tricky part. So first we need to take our atomic mass, the total mass, which is 15.999. Take this number, look 1 to the right of the decimal, it's a 9, which is bigger than a 5, so I need to round up. So our atomic mass can be rounded to 16. So if my total mass, the atomic mass is 16, there are 8 protons, I can subtract 8 from 16. So I have the total mass minus the mass, or the number of the protons, and I'll end up with 8. So the number of neutrons equals 8. So I have 8 protons, 8 electrons, and 8 neutrons. Okay, now we're finally getting to the math, our favorite part. So part C, it says, what is the sum of the atomic number of fluorine and the atomic number of oxygen, or the atomic mass of fluorine and the atomic mass of oxygen? So the atomic mass of fluorine is, on the sheet, remember it's the bigger number because it's the total mass, the atomic mass. So the atomic mass of fluorine is 18.998. The atomic mass of oxygen is 15.999. And I'm looking for the sum. So when I add, the number one question, as I said, do you line up your decimals when finding the sum? Sum means addition. So when I add, I need to line up my decimal. Not when I multiply, not when I divide. When I add, I line up my decimal. So 18.998 plus 15.999. You guys know how to add. The second one, what is the difference? So we're subtracting. Make sure you look at borrowing. I know it's tricky, but you guys are really good at it. And so finish up that one on your own. Then on the back, 2 more questions involving atoms, and then you have a decimal quiz. And this quiz, if you get 100%, will give you a chance to move up the decimal ladder. It's going to be addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I know you guys can do great on this. Good luck.